I want to introduce our speakers for today. So when I moved here 3 years ago, I started to hear about Kristi and Erika and Honeyhead by extension, that they were doing things in the community and really making a name for themselves. And they're so good at social media and putting themselves out there and framing their brand that you couldn't help but find out what they were doing. I started to work with the local film festivals, and I got to see their work and hear about them more and more. And I think the thing that's so compelling about them is just that they're so dynamic and driven, and they really are a team that is, so many times you don't see that in creativity or the filmmaking world. Some people are just kind of lone sharks out there doing stuff, and they really count on their partnership to push their creativity forward. And it's been really amazing to watch. And so when we had the opportunity to invite them in to talk about this theme, we just thought, what amazing. They've been able to accomplish so much, but it's impressive that they are such a dynamic and kick-ass team, and they're continuing to evolve what they're doing. They started off doing, as actresses, and then I'll tell you their story, but and then moving into filmmaking, and then even extending their brand into helping to teach people and lift other people up. And so we're just really honored to have them as part of our community, and I'd like to bring to the stage Kristi and Erika.
It was good to stand back there because we're going to stand now for everyone back in the back. Let me move this on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right.
Hello. So to get going, we want to take you all back 10 years. As you heard, Kristi and I started our careers in film in front of the camera, and we want to give you a glimpse into a day in the life of a 25-year-old working actor. So I'm going to read you a breakdown, which is what an actor receives from a casting director or agency. It'll usually say the title of the project you're auditioning for and give you a little brief description of the role, and then any direction. So this is mine. The audition breakdown reads, Prestige trash bin cleaning commercial. Yes. I'm reading for the role of neighbor, 21 to 61 years old. I'm not sure why they don't like 62-year-olds, but here we are. All ethnicities, male or female, so barely any competition, probably got this in the bag. Okay, storyline. It's a work day in Fayetteville, North Carolina, except it's trash day. Eek. Improv skills a must, in all caps. Please follow the audition instructions for each role. Where's our, oh yeah. You can start at dropping the trash in the dirty bin and end with an uncomfortable smile. So my actor friends in the audience will know, at the end of an audition, you have to do what's called a slate, and often it'll be your name, your height, where you're from.
Don't get the slate wrong, or you will not be considered.
Label your file exactly like this. So yeah, after that peak trash performance, I then had to introduce myself to everyone. So
what we found while we were preparing to talk to you today is that I also auditioned for Prestige Trash Bin commercial before I knew Erika, and I am reading for the role of woman. They're casting the net a little less wide. This is 20 to 40-year-old, any ethnicity. Everybody knows I'm probably not going to get that role as a white woman, but we'll try anyway. So the instructions read, get out of your car, don't go that way. You see handsome Dan, except he stinks. Ooh, you're not interested? Move on. So I hope this helps paint a picture of our very humble beginnings. And if you came today looking for some sort of inspiration, just know that I met my business partner of 10 years on Craigslist in a casting call. Erika had written and was set to direct her very first short film. And I tell this story a lot. I always say I don't know why I was on Craigslist as a 25-year-old actress looking for a job, but after pulling up these commercials, I'm reminded exactly why I was looking for something more, which neither of us booked this, by the way. I think what's the beautiful reality of it is that our lives finally collided in 2015 after living this seemingly parallel journey so far, and kind of hitting rock bottom with the Prestige trash bin commercial moment.
So for me, the answer to this sort of underwhelming foray into screen acting was to make films. And I was working on the weekends with a small cohort of other actors who just wanted to create real material for themselves. So basically, let's make some short films and then we can all use them as material to submit to casting directors. And at one point, the opportunity came up and my friends were like, well, why don't you write something? You have good ideas. And I was like, okay. I'd written for the stage in college. I had written short plays and directed short plays, but I'd never done anything in film. It was totally foreign to me, but I was like, let me give it a shot. So I wrote my very first short film. It was called 33 North, 77 West for the coordinates in Curie Beach, which was the location that we had access to was there. So the stipulations of the short, very indie film-esque, was write for a single location that's free that we have access to. And then write interesting speaking roles for 5 actors because we wanted to just invite as many actors as we could into the process and give everyone real material. So 3 of the roles were pre-cast, and then we had 2 auditions we had to do for 2 female actresses. And who slid into my inbox after I posted my very last Craigslist casting call? But Kristi Ray, and she had this incredible self-tape, and so we cast her. We met the night before we started shooting, and some friends came down from Raleigh to help us make the project, and suddenly I was a film director. That's how it happened.
Ironically, what I remember about that is that Erika was the very first screenwriter and very first female director I ever worked with. And at the time, I'd been in this industry working for 8 years. And I remember how different it felt to read her script. It really changed my life in a huge way. It set the bar really high. The dialogue was authentic, believable. It felt like something I would actually say and do, not just look at cute Mike and walk away, and put the trash away. And I remember just being inspired by that and thinking, put yourself in my shoes. Imagine working in your industry for 8 years and never having the opportunity to embody a character that was written from the female perspective, or never finding films that resonated with you on an authentic level. And when I was growing up, I wasn't seeing interesting or inspiring versions of myself on screen. It was a lot of wafy model types playing the ditzy blonde in the 2000s and late 90s. And that checks out, considering the statistics of female decision makers behind the screen. And sadly, if you look at these stats, the numbers haven't really changed that much in the last 25 years. They've gotten a little bit better. And I like to hope that what we're doing has, some tiny part of it, at least on a local level. But it's the harsh reality that we're living in.
So given this disparity, it's not surprising that we were getting served roles that weren't really written from the female perspective. And we really felt like that was missing. When Kristi and I got to know each other and we were like, hey, we really care about the female perspective. Why don't we try to start creating projects that we would care about? And it was surprising that this was missing, especially given the statistics of the audience makeup, which I'm going to read y'all some stats. A study by Fandango surveying over 6,000 moviegoers who bought tickets since January 2022 found that 60% identified as female, 39% as male, and 1% as non-binary. So women be going to movies. So it's interesting then that we're not seeing more films by women, for women, about women. So we decided we wanted to do that. And without realizing it, we were doing what most entrepreneurs do, which is they look at the market, they see a gap, and then they find a creative way to fill it. And so that's how Honeyhead Films was born.
There's a saying that it's a miracle that any film gets made. And I always like to add, if the people you're making it with, if your cast and your crew and your community, your location owners, your vendors, if they have a good time while making the film as well, then you've really done something extraordinary. And for Honeyhead, that counterculture approach to filmmaking, it's been something that has always been a huge priority to us. And it's one of the things that truly just makes us Honeyhead. You can ask any former intern, any crew member. I mean, there's people in this room that will tell you on a Honeyhead set, it is fair, it is equitable, and it is diverse. And that's something we're really proud of. There's another gap in the market that's begging to be filled. Fair sets, equitable sets, diverse sets. And the two of us have followed our gut, and we've said yes to the universe enough to know that this organic growth and this momentum is meant to be. And we answered a call, truly. I mean, the Craigslist call, yes, but then just like an existential call. And in turn, we created autonomy for ourselves and for other people who look like us, who think like us, who approach filmmaking the same way that we do. And our brand is truly what attracts those collaborators to us. Building brand equity wasn't incredibly intentional when we first started out, but in hindsight, it's something that has been tremendously important to our success as a production company. Who we are as people and how we treat our community and nurture those relationships has proven to be equally as important as the kinds of films we're making or the production value behind the scenes.
I love this video. So our brand of filmmaking, like Kristi said, developed out of what we wanted to see represented on screen and off screen. And on screen, a lot of that was the female experience and the authentic Southern voice. Both being filmmakers from the South, that was also something that we felt like was missing. And I remember watching Nomadland for the first time and feeling so thrilled that an award-winning film could be made by a woman, about a female protagonist just taking up space on screen, and how rare that is. Oftentimes we see like women in a leading role, but they're in like a super suit, you know what I mean? And they're like killing all the bad guys, and they're like, oh, yes, and it's like, can't we just watch, can't this woman just be a woman, and can't her being feminine and embracing everything that it is to be a woman just be enough without being within the context, of another man, a male role, a co-star or something like that. So in being service to that male role, not necessarily making it, there's a test I like to call out the Bechdel test. Can you describe that?
The Bechdel test, you pass the Bechdel test in a script, if there's two female characters in a scene who have a conversation, they never mention a man.
Yeah.
So most movies don't pass the Bechdel test.
Think about that for a second, and the next time you're watching a film, see if the film passes it, and many films do not. So in addition to the female experience, the authentic Southern voice was something that mattered to us, because I'm always like, can we pause for a second and talk about the Hollywood Southern accent? I feel like Hollywood thinks that either everyone is from Texas or from Savannah. And it's like, there's no in between, and sometimes people that are like from North Carolina sound like they're from Texas and Savannah, but they're from North Carolina. So that was something that really stood out to us, is we were like, man, the South, being here, growing up here, there's such a rich cultural diverse fabric that runs through all of the South, and we really want to make sure that is authentically portrayed on screen, because we're so much more than Sweet Home Alabama and Forrest Gump, love Forrest Gump, and like Daisy Dukes, you know what I mean? So we also wanted to say, hey, why don't we start exploring other cultures, across the fabric of our nation, that, including the South, that deserve this type of authentic lens. So we wanted to give voice to that.
And I think it's worth mentioning that neither of us went to film school or business school. So being 100% self-taught filmmakers, we really approached this industry with zero ego, because we had so much to learn, but it allowed us to learn, and it allowed us to learn holistically and to wear so many hats. I mean, in the beginning, we wore every single hat. Some of you might be of a time where you remember, Michael Essery, you remember Just Two Girls and a Camera. You remember that era of Honeyhead? That was a big part of our growth, right? But as we slowly were able to take off those hats and put them on other people who were really excited to wear them and build our team, that felt so good. And we weren't trying to fit inside of a box. We had developed a whole different way of thinking about producing films, because to us, there really wasn't a box to fit in. And we were paving our own way, finding mentors and being mentors to those who came after us. Lifting while climbing, that's a motto that we've had for a really long time in Honeyhead. And it's something that's so important to us, pouring into the next generation. It's part of that parallel energy that has gotten us where we are today. And it's not always easy, but looking back 5 years, 10 years down the line, it's incredibly rewarding.
In the spirit of transparency, and I feel like we've been pretty transparent with y'all this morning, but I always like to pull back the curtain a little bit, because, surprise, it's really hard to make money making movies. So from a business perspective, you heard about all the brand equity and all of the heart that went into Honeyhead, but we're also running a business. And naturally, when you're a filmmaker, you're a creative, you're making films. When we first started out, we were serial short filmmakers, and we had other temporary jobs that we used to fund or give ourselves time to work on these creative projects. But when we decided we wanted to make the leap into being full-time filmmakers, we had to find creative ways to keep the lights on. So that could have looked like producing a music video. That could have been, a commercial for a local business. That could have been social media content for, a creator. Anything like that was more in the brand storytelling space. But at our core, we were still filmmakers making commercials. And that shone through in everything we do. And people would come to us and they'd be like, I want the thing. What is it? I can't put my finger on it. What is that? And we were like, oh, it's us making movies about your business. So people loved that. They loved that we came to them and we basically produced a documentary about their company. And a lot of the narrative filmmaking that we loved went into those, very initial business relationships that we had with people.
And it was those people, the businesses, it was the bands we were making music videos for, our former interns, this community that came along and supported us and bolstered us when it was time to make our very first feature film, A Song for Imogene. Wilmington believed in us and gave us an opportunity and invested in Honeyhead. This movie is locally produced. It's a homegrown film that now has international distribution. Thank you. And it was made possible through crowdfunding and local equity here in Wilmington. And I kid you not, when our executive producer, who lives here, came to us with $80,000 overnight, she told us that the universe was telling her to give us this money. That because of what we were doing for the women in Wilmington, for the women at large in the industry, she wanted to be a part of that. It wasn't about the story. I don't even think she read the script. It wasn't about how talented we were behind the lens. It was truly about the brand. And so that parallel energy is what has opened these doors. Do y'all want to watch the trailer to the movie? Okay.
Shine, I know you see me calling you. I know you seen Alex show up on the ID. What are you doing? You can't keep running forever, baby. I'm the only home you got. I love you.
How's he gonna fix this, huh?
Mama, I need some money.
It's like your father, always running.
You know, Alex is the reason I don't play anymore. I can't pick up a guitar.
What are you looking to do here, pawn or sell?
I need to sell it.
I didn't know you'd be here.
Well, I called you.
I haven't had that number in like 6 years. Everything was different after you left. The past doesn't change just because you decided it don't concern you anymore. I've missed you.
I think I'm pregnant.
Does he know?
I want to do it on my own. He's got this hold on me.
Be good.
I feel like he's messing with my mind.
I'm looking for someone you might know. Cheyenne, Beryl.
You're one of the strongest people I know. Don't confuse running with being free.
Hey. You mind if I come in?
To take you to his mansion in the sky.
Thank you. I'm always reminded of the saying, do what you can with what you have right now. And the past 10 years of the journey of Honeyhead have really been a testament to that. From our very first zero-budget short film to this award-winning, critically acclaimed feature film, that's now our calling card movie that's gotten us into the rooms that we're in today. Doors I wouldn't have known how to open 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I'm really proud to say that because of this movie, we're actively packaging and financing our next feature film with a much higher production budget, with people we met on the festival circuit who share that ethos and company culture and care about their community in the same way that Honeyhead does. And so the brand is really what created those relationships.
And we'll just close out with a little word about the next feature. It's called Host Country. It's a cousin to Imogene. It's still a grounded female-led film, but the genre is quite different. Imogene is a drama, and Host Country is a action thriller. So we're really excited about that. The graph you just saw that some people were kind of trying to see is actually the production budget growth. So we're kind of doing this like fun exponential curve with the budget. But having things like Kristi said, like Imogene as a calling card film has opened those doors, allowed us to have conversations with executive producers and other producers who are interested in what we're doing, and are able to come on board to help finance those bigger budget projects. It's opened doors for us to have conversations with legislatures about creating, passing bills that will help with indie film production in North Carolina and make it a competitive state. So all of that is stuff that we're really excited about, that we're actively working on right now in this moment as Honeyhead Films.
Thank you all so much.
Typically, I use the mic, but this is small. So if you have any questions for Kristi and Erika, go ahead.
Hi.
This is a silly question, but how'd you come up with the name?
A song for Imogene or Host Country?
Honeyhead Films.
Oh, Honeyhead Films. You should talk about that.
The night after we wrapped our very first short film, I just had an epiphany moment. People on set had a really great experience, and they told Erika and myself and our other co-founder, Devin, this was the best run set we've ever been on. And we're looking at each other like, we're faking it till we make it hard. That's saying a lot. Maybe we should do more of these films. And I instantly, the brand girl, I'm like, we need a name. We need a name tonight. We need an Instagram tonight. And I thought, what did the three of us have in common? And we were three blonde women, and I thought about being from the South. And if anybody from the South has ever been honeyed by an older man, you know how it feels to kind of be talked down to. And I thought, the alliteration is nice. I want to reclaim what it means to be a honey. And I want to take that sweetness and, change our culture. And I had really big thoughts about it, and there was never another name just on the table. I just texted these two and said, what about Honeyhead Films? And they said, it's perfect, make a hat. And then we were Honeyhead. So I don't know, a strike of branding genius. Yeah, thanks for that question. Yes, with the cool earrings.
I love your trailer. How do we watch your movie?
Thanks for asking. It's been a long time coming. Do you want to tell them about our release?
Yeah, so we secured a distribution deal for the film while we were on the festival circuit, and we now get to announce finally that we have a release date, June 26th. 7th.
June 27th. You can watch it on Amazon. It'll be an SVOD window, Amazon, a couple other streaming platforms. We'll put out more information. Please scan this QR code, all of you, before you leave and get on the mailing list, and I will personally send you the links when it gets released. If you've already seen the film, or even after you watch it, please review it on Letterboxd and IMDb. It helps tremendously. Rotten Tomatoes, all of that. As a grassroots movement, your opinion matters, and that people, spread the word. But also cruise ships, airlines, we're going global. It's going to be out there virtually.
Yeah.
And Honeyhead also retained the rights. We negotiated with our distributor to be able to do our own theatrical release. So they're not taking it to theaters. They don't really do that for indies these days unless it's winning the Oscar. So we're able to host pop-up screenings. So we may do something in Wilmington again. I know that everyone didn't get a chance to see it a couple years ago at Cucalores.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, darlings. I have a really quick question. What is your bucket list movie?
The question was, what is our bucket list movie? Right now it's Host Country.
I was going to say that.
But as a writer, I have ideas all the time. I've written a lot of different screenplays, really across genres, a dark comedy, a psychological horror film.
The cult movie set in
Germany. Yeah, and then kind of one that's set in the Bible Belt in the 60s. That's kind of also another kind of psychological sort of thriller that would be two female leads. So yeah, there's just all the ideas rolling around. Right now, the bucket list one is Host Country because it's going to be the next stepping stone, a more with the indie heart, but a little more commercial as far as genre.
What stage are you at with Host Country?
We are packaging the film right now. So we have 2 producers attached, and we are currently working on closing our first round of investment, well, really our second round for talent attachment. So unlike Imaging, which was supremely acted by actors that are not yet household names, they will be soon, but we're looking to put a name talent, which is bankable actors, people you would recognize if I said their name or you saw their face. You'd be like, oh, that person. We need a woman in a supporting role and a male in a cameo role. So that's kind of how we're going to balance out our cast, which helps with pre-sales. It helps get the film seen theatrically. It helps distributors get interested, financiers get interested. So casting is a huge part of making films and kind of taking that leap into a higher budget tier and a more commercial genre. So that's what we're working on right now. Mm-hmm.
It's about the same amount of equity to raise for talent attachment as we made the whole movie Imaging for. So it's a whole different perspective, but you're in the room with people who can sneeze $80,000 and they're not really thinking about it, that kind of thing. But you need a calling card film to say, trust us with your money that we're going to make a good film even after we get an actor attached.
I like to tell people that aren't in the film industry that a film is basically a startup. It's the same exact conversations you have about investment and equity stake and valuation that you would have with like first round investors for a startup company. So, and then the idea is that you nurture it. It's kind of a short term. You want to sell it. You want to pay back your investors and then kind of move on to the next thing. So it's, if you really get into that mindset about it, it very much is just like kind of like running in the startup race. It's just your product is a little more speculative. So it takes a little bit of like a track record to really prove that you have what it takes to make people feel safe about their investment. So but that's kind of a good way to think about it for anyone that's like, I don't know anything about film. Like that's really what it is.
And anyone who's interested in knowing more about film finance or financing films, I'm happy to report the ball is rolling. We raised $25,000 yesterday and $50K on our imaging, festival circuit. So things are actively happening. So if you know people who, might want to diversify their portfolio and get into film finance, it's definitely something we'd love to pioneer in Wilmington. Movies are made here. They're not made by people here, not often enough. And we want to change that as Honeyhead. Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about the upstream work that you're doing with young girls to maybe shift those statistics?
Absolutely. A couple years ago, the year crazy enough that we shot a song for Imaging, we started a summer camp called Shoot Like a Girl. It's for high school and age women and young women to learn how to be writers and directors and produce their own work. And we've expanded the company. We've added other partners to it. We're now this year partnering with UNCW. We're hosting our narrative film camp on campus there and our music video production camp on campus at Glow Academy. And very recently, we just launched another leg of Honeyhead. It's called Honeyhead Labs, and Erika can talk a little bit about that education platform as well.
In starting Shoot Like a Girl, we had kind of an overwhelming response from people, like just people our age or older who were like, when are you going to do Shoot Like a Girl for me? And we were like, okay, so there's also a need for continuing education for adults in our community and in our filmmaking community. So that's when the idea for Honeyhead Labs was born. And the first lab that we're doing is a screenwriting course that I'm going to be teaching. There's 2 cohorts, a Sunday and a Tuesday. One of our writers is here today. So really excited about that and just continuing to give back to the community, because we're really, with Shoot Like a Girl and with these labs, we're really trying to create workforce development in the film industry in North Carolina to prove to our legislatures that they need to keep our incentives competitive, because we have a really vibrant community here of people that are worth investing in. And the way to do that is to just grow the type of people who are below the line, which in film means like the working person, so not like the big Hollywood actors coming from LA or the big time, directors coming from New York, but like the people that work on the sets, like the sometimes hundreds of people that make a film happen here locally in North Carolina. We really want to invest in that community, and a big part of that starts with education. The worker bees. Yep.
Yes.
I know there was one over here too. Sorry.
Where did each of you grow up, or where y'all from?
I grew up in New Bern, so not far from here.
Mm-hmm.
A little town outside of New Bern. A lot like what you see on Imaging.
Yeah. I grew up in Chapel Hill. Yep. Yeah. North Carolina. Yeah.
Being a woman-centric business, can you tell a story about where you've encountered a pushback from some people in the industry who wants to just go honey you?
Oh, the question was for an example of being honeyed in the industry. I remember a time I walked onto a commercial set and I was there to DP it, so be the cinematographer, the camera operator, and I walked through the door, and I think one of it was a production assistant, or maybe it was someone who was helping produce, but they saw me walk in and they went, hair and makeup? And I was like, no, I'm the cinematographer, I'm here to shoot your project. So that's something that, there's just kind of like an assumption that kind of comes along with being a woman in the industry, that we're going to fill certain trades, and that, our male identifying, counterparts will fill other trades. So we're just trying to actively try to disrupt that, mindset, and put as many women in, technical roles as we possibly can.
I I think what comes to mind for me is when we were pitching a song for Imogene traditionally, before we turned to this community and said, we're just going to do it here, we're going to make it locally, we encountered a lot of, oh, well, you're first-time filmmakers. And we had made 17 short films. We'd made hundreds of commercial projects. We're not first-time anything, but that's just what the industry coins you as. Yet you see time and time again people taking a chance on male first-time filmmakers. It's really, really difficult. As a woman, you have to be perfect. Your product has to be perfect because you only get one shot. And I still feel really proud of Imogene. We watch it, it's been 3 years since we wrapped production. Is that right? Oh my gosh, it's been 3 years since we wrapped production. And the film holds up. I feel proud of it. And it's not perfect, but it's a good representation. I think it did what it needed to do, but there was so much pressure on the both of us to just not fuck it up, because we were girls doing it for the first time. And I think men sadly just don't experience that same kind of pressure. They could have a flop and people would invest in their next movie, give them another shot. They were just getting started. That kind of energy is still something we need to break down as women in the industry, or men can help us, and you all are. So thank you.
How do you get inspiration for your scripts? Like you mentioned Germany. Do you visit these places to make it authentic, to really believe that you're there?
The question was, where do I get inspiration for ideas for scripts? Sometimes they just lightning bolt into my head. I'll just be like sitting in a moment of quietude and I'm like, and I have been to Germany, and this particular film, the kernel of it started with an idea of adapting the Pied Piper story into a very kind of like loose adaptation, where the Pied Piper is a woman and it's like set in like modern times. And so I was like, oh, well, I started doing a ton of research on the original lore behind that is Germanic. And so that's where like the setting came from. And I have been to Bavaria and seen kind of the landscape there. But yeah, sometimes they'll come from like a nugget of something, and then sometimes they just kind of come down into my brain like a scene or characters. Music, we'll do that a lot as well. And then I usually try to scribble down like the outline of the idea, and then when I get time, come back to it. The most recent feature I finished actually was came from. The hook for the film came from a dream my partner had. So that is, and he kind of co-story authored the film with me. So, yeah, all different types of places. Yeah.
So you said there was a lack of business education in the beginning. So what's one little piece of advice you could give a creative that would really rather wear the creative hat and stay away from numbers?
Ha ha ha. I think that surround yourself with people that know more than you when it comes to, the nice thing about Honey Head is Kristi and I, the number of hats on our head were like to the ceiling when we first started, because we were having to be we were owning a business, having to be the creatives, we were doing everything. I remember like when we first locked in our CPA and I was like, yes, I was like, and he's an invaluable part of our team, because it's something we don't have to think about, but figuring out, especially as a small business when maybe you don't have a lot of capital at first to put towards other roles and you have to do a lot of things yourself. It's like, we would constantly make lists. Okay, number one hat you would take off as soon as possible. And we would kind of check in with each other and figure out what that was. And very often it was like, the taxes, the accounting, that thing, yeah, for both of us. So we knew as soon as we, could really afford to invest in that part of our team and that trade, that we wanted to fling that off of the list as quickly as possible. And it helped with the efficiency of our business as well. So it's kind of like you have to figure out what am I really doing that is the most use to my business to help it grow, and what do I really need to take off because I'm actually inhibiting the growth of my company by continuing to do all of this myself. So you do kind of reach these stretching points as a small business owner where you're like, man, if only I could stretch a little bit more, I would be able to, or if I could take this off, I would be able to stretch a little bit more. And so you kind of reach those I think, sprints, those like jogs and sprints. So just like bringing people into the process that like it. People like that.
That's what I was going to say. Not just the numbers, but our partnership is so invaluable. We're really good at different parts of the business and of the industry. And where Erika leaves off, I pick up. My joys are not her joys. We meet in the middle, but the thing that's like my jam is not what she likes to do. And that's a really solid partnership. And then finding other people who love to do the things, I'm looking at them in the room, that intimidate you as you grow, empowering them to come along and give them a lot of responsibility. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Nobody's going to ask a stupid question. They're excited to teach you. Be humble enough to say, I'm really nervous about this. Like, can you handle this for me? What do you think about this? And they're going to give advice and make you feel more confident just holistically as a business owner. So humble yourself and don't be afraid to just admit that you don't know everything. Yeah.
So I've been a fan forever, and I both watched you grow, worked with you, and seen where you're going. And the interaction of you guys like on set, you guys like pour so much of not only like your work selves, but you find this like ebb and flow where your personality, like the people you are, like interlocks with what you're doing. What's your recharge like? Like when it's like, when we wrap for the day, and because y'all been like hustling hard, for like y'all been sprinting for a very long time. And when it's time to like chill, what's your recharge like? Like, is there a movie or an album or an activity that you just go to and you're like, oh, today I'm like wandering Trader Joe's?
Mexico. For me, it's Mexico. The wrap of every big project, me and my husband go to Mexico. And we're like, not on the phone. If I'm talking to Erika, I'm sending her pictures. We're not talking about the business. And we have to practice that as friends. It's like, we set boundaries. We're leaving the office. We're friends now. We're friends in the office, but we're not trying to Slack overnight or text about work. It's difficult to set personal boundaries like that. That's a big one for me. It's family time. It's like vacation, but I have to recharge after a film. We're all dead after a movie. It's like, it's really tough.
Yeah, definitely finding time. I love going to the mountains and just being in nature. That's definitely a recharge for me. And just developing that work-life balance. We did not always have it, but there reached a point, I would think it was kind of after Imaging, where we had just been going and going and going, trying to get this movie off the ground. And we were like, okay, starting families, doing things like that, you just have to kind of find this balance. And so there are some really nice days where like I go home, 5, 6 o'clock. I don't look at my phone till the next morning, literally don't pick it up. I don't even know where it is. I'm going to bed. I'm like, I should probably find my phone. So there are really nice ways to kind of like turn off, and then weekends spending time just like with friends and family. So we've really kind of developed this nice balance, which I think is so important for any business owner, anyone at all, is that balance. But especially if you're working for yourself, because it is easy to just be a business owner 24/7 and just be thinking about it all the time. And I think that turning it off also allows you to be more creative. I don't feel creative when I'm thinking about work all the time. I have to have intentional breaks and then come back and I'm like, it's Monday and I'm like, I feel so refreshed. Now I feel like I can be creative again. But when you're like slowly burning out, it's like you can't be creative and be that best version of yourself.
They say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, and that is not true at all. It's like you're always kind of working. So as creative people who love what you do, you relate to that. And so just, remember to take care of yourself. And you're right, it does make you a better person. It makes you a better actor to have a whole life outside of being an actor. You're bringing those experiences to these projects, and can't stress it enough. And I'm not always the best at it, but you have to have accountability partners and people who will pull you out of the funk when you're just like head down in the project. A great question. Y'all have been so warming and welcoming. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for having us. Go Creative Mornings.